Yeah. Live and direct from the new planet Earth, where pandemics are plenty, but the girls are still pretty in fashionable dresses. You know what I'm talking about. Where ignorance is bliss, and you ain't gotta give a about no code.
Tell me who unleashed our animal instinct. Why the op standing there tickle pink? Have a drink, no more liquor. Got a poison. One thicker, one gangster, one hole in the desert for the snitch. What happened?
Welcome back to the Franchise Podcast on Radio Row, covering Super Bowl LVIII in our hometown, Las Vegas. Joining us now is longtime NFL quarterback. He gave my Packers the blues in the NFC Central. Blues. Erik Kramer. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on. So, before we get to why you're here,
Yeah.
what do you think about the state of football where it is today?
Well, I think it's probably as popular, if not more than ever.
Yeah.
I think, going back several years, fantasy football is in large part any fantasy football league you happen to be in is going to be won by a woman, and so that's kind of doubled the people who watch the NFL.
Yeah.
And I love it. I mean, the league is predicated on parity, right? And so you've got all these great players coming out of college every year. There's free agency teams move around. You can build a solid team for a period of time if you get all the right pieces in place, as the Lions did this year. And so to me it's fun because someone was asking me, like, can you just watch a game just like to watch a game? I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I've watched how it's played, like
right.
how I learned how to play it.
Right.
And so anyway, to me it's fun.
I feel like the job you held for all those years is literally one of the hardest jobs possible on earth. The processor that you have to have, like just the quick twitch,
Yeah.
the fight or flight that you gotta have. What made you want to be a quarterback, or what made you feel like you had those qualities early on?
I guess it's because you touch the ball every play, and then all
Right.
things come through you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
eventually, as you get older and learn a little bit more about how the game's really played,
Yeah.
then now it goes from playing catch to actually knowing what you're looking at.
Right.
And getting those guys,
Yes.
like you make your decisions based on the defense.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
eventually you start to learn how to move people. So, you know what they're responsible for, so you're going to run two receivers into an area that one guy's going to get him in a pickle.
Right.
And so by your own body language and eyes, you're going to either freeze him where he's at,
Yeah.
or you're going to make him continue to go where he's already going.
Right.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah.
And you don't always get the protection to do that, right?
No.
So you got to sidestep some folks every now
Right,
and then,
right,
and take your lumps every now and then.
Yeah, you did a lot of sidestepping, sir.
No, you talked about your Lions, man. Like, what do you think of the turnaround in the job Dan Campbell's done?
Magical.
Yeah.
Magical. And if you start at the top with the Ford family, they've never been, I'd say, like the ultimate in terms of how to communicate with the organization, with the team. I remember when William Clayford was the owner, we'd see him once, and it was usually in the off season saying hi. Whereas now, Mrs. Ford Hamp, everything I've heard is she has made not only herself accessible, like she put her office right in the center of everything.
Oh, wow.
And hired people that were competent from Brad Holmes on down, and to basically, as you said, Dan Campbell, and there's a culture in that building now that everybody believes in each other. They've done a great job, Brad Holmes and that staff, with assembling through the draft.
Yes.
And specific free agents.
Yes.
And so you look at this team now. True, they should be here this week. We should be talking about
you're
how
not
they're going to
lying.
do on Sunday.
Yeah, I know he was wearing that hat.
I see you. I mean, I get it. There's got to be a team that was here in place, but
For sure.
I'm just thinking that they've got a lot more chances to be here
They absolutely
in
do.
the future than just this year.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, that team was built, and they're going to be a problem for a while. I love the way they built the team. And then Detroit is one of those places. I've done music for years, and that was a place that has always supported me.
Yeah.
And they just need something to get behind. Give them a winner. You see what happens. They packed that place out to watch the game in San Francisco.
I'm just saying, there was 20-some thousand people at Ford Field watching the game in San Francisco.
The game, man.
So it's like, I'm just saying this is a fact. If the Lions, who should be here, were to win this Sunday, on Monday, there might not be a city Detroit.
Facts.
So
I agree 100%.
And I love the fact that, you've been to Detroit. I mean, I know Nashville is called the Music City, but if you really want to get down to it, it's Detroit.
Listen, man, I've toured for years. I had a 7-piece band. I had a 5-piece band. Every time, the majority of the players were from Detroit because that's where the best musicians come from.
There you go.
Period, point blank.
Yep.
Well, I want to talk about your book, The Ultimate Comeback, and your story. This is near and dear to me, as he knows he's the godfather of all of my children, and my son in 2020 took his life. This talks about, surviving a suicide attempt, living with depression, something I battle, quite honestly, and finding a purpose.
Yeah.
So what made you be brave enough to actually come out and tell your story and write this book?
It's an interesting question you asked, what made me be brave enough? Well, brave, kind of, what's the downside of doing this? So this is my life, and to me, there's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it's just the opposite. So I figured this started out being a book about, depression and my playing with it, having it at different times of life, a suicide attempt, as you mentioned, and we can get into that, but it's about so many more things. So I grew up with 2 imperfect parents, so it talks about that, or I talk about that in the book, but there's a, that was when I was young. And so over time, I think they changed to a degree, but I changed to a degree. And it kind of follows that transition throughout, as well as, with both of my sons. Griffin, my oldest son, passed away from a heroin addiction.
Wow.
But he didn't just try it one day and was gone the next. I mean, he was drug-free for a year and a half in therapy, drug therapy. And prior to that, this was his whole life. So it wasn't just drug addiction. Long before that, he had a hard time fitting in with his friends. He had a hard time in school. His life was not what any of us would want.
Right.
And so there's other parents out there, I guarantee you, dealing with that.
Absolutely.
And to survive a suicide attempt, I got to say, I'm the luckiest guy alive.
Yeah.
And every day my feet hit the floor, I've got something positive to do that day. Now, many positive things to do, in fact.
Yeah.
And so, this talks about how, a little bit, about how, I just didn't pop into the NFL one day. I mean, it was hard for me to get, I didn't play in high school. I on varsity, I was a backup.
Really?
I was. And then I was an undrafted free agent. I had to call my way under the Lions. And so to make it eventually, when I look back, I mean, that's life. Everybody goes through something.
Yes.
Everybody's got to ascend and persevere over something in life.
Yes.
And those, what's a good day to quit?
Good
So,
question.
and
question.
so all that's in there. And I've heard back from people that have known me my whole life to know people that have never met me. And they've all got something that says to the effect, I'm dealing with that too. Or have dealt with it, or know somebody that is.
Yeah.
And so it's fun, maybe that's the wrong word, it's satisfying to be able to talk to people through a book. And I just find it,
Was it therapeutic for you to write it?
Yeah, it was in a way. Because, if I don't, then no one knows about it.
True.
And what I really have enjoyed, and I've only done this once, is talking about it, the book. And I talked to a company in Chicago, and this website that I've got, erikkramer12.com, it's not suited for it just yet, but it's going to give kind of an encompassing view of what the compilation of this speech is going to be. And it's going to have a lot of cool stuff to it. So anyway, that's kind of what we've been doing so far and where it's going from there.
Can't wait to read it, man, because it's definitely your life. But if you think about it, since COVID, so many people are going through, like, we need a comeback as a society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
And it takes more than just the person in it.
Right.
So,
Right.
And that's one thing that the people around me have learned is, like, I feel bad for not knowing. My aunt says, I feel bad for not knowing. Like, how could you feel bad?
Right.
Like,
Right.
there's nothing to know until we talk about it.
Right.
And so what I have found is all those same people that have had their oar in the water, now I got to get mine in.
There it is.
And so,
There it is.
and together, that's how you get through it.
I know, and he knows it. There's 2 days out of the year that very few people can call me and I'll pick up the phone, and that's my son's birthday and the day that he passed.
Right.
And that day I am literally like an emotional wreck. But I could feel it coming on. It's almost like that snowball effect.
Yeah.
Is that how it was for you? Is that how it is for you at times? It's a snowball effect. You kind of feel it coming on way before, subconsciously.
You talking about depression?
Yeah.
In the times of my life that I've had it, it just like I can feel it come. Like, literally, I was driving down the road one day, and I go, uh-oh. It's just some little thing that
Starts
trickles
right
up.
here. Yep.
And there's no stopping that bubble. And so the idea is, and I'm like you, Griffin was born, on June 24th, 1993, and he died October 11th, 2011, and he would have been 30 years old this year. Wow. And I go, his gravesite is not far from where I live, for a reason. So, but at the same time, this book is in part for him. It's in part for Dylan. I think Griffin would want to know that because of him, some good stuff's being done.
Yep.
So that's how I think about it. And there's, my house, it's not a shrine to my kids, but it's got stuff that means something to me that involves them. And, I don't live in the past, but I don't want to run from it either.
Exactly.
So I got a question from another side of this. Lately, over the last couple of years, his struggles, what happened with my godson, has caused me to try to just invest some time and figuring out ways to deal with it, right? If you had it your way, if you guys had it your way, the people around you, the people in your network, your village, your friends, your family, how would you have them deal with you in those times when you feel it coming on? What's the best way for us to support you?
That's a great question. And I think what I've told people in the past and what's continued to is live your life in a way where you look approachable to others, because we're all being observed all the time.
Yeah.
Knowing that, you'd want someone to watch you move around and go, now that's someone that if I came to them wouldn't judge me. They would, instead, they'd stop what they're doing, they'd pull my chair up, sit down, and they would be very curious as to what I've got on my mind.
Got it.
And they might even be someone that would reach out to me if they saw me not be myself. And so that's that's the program I'm pushing forward right now. There's a mental health program that I've gotten together with a couple folks on that we're going to start with kids, and in an after-school setting, basically have a workshop once a week and start to help kids identify at a young age what characteristics in a person do you most admire, and hopefully you'll have some of your own.
Yes.
And we can act out what those look like. Then it goes from, okay, now that you've got this compilation of a person It could be a parent, it could be a coach, it could be someone slightly older or at least more mature, that looks more mature than you. And then how do you approach them? How do you, like, you want to construct this home team. How do you approach them to do that?
Yeah.
Well, we can act that out too.
Yeah.
And so think about that as a young age, where if you're 9, 10, 11, by the time you graduate high school, because as you get older, so do the challenges.
Right.
And so now, by the time you're 18-ish and you get out of high school, for half of your life, this is what you've been doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So there's proactive ways to get ahead of what you know is coming.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, you've had depression, as have I. Okay, if we took a poll of America right now, there'd be more than half that haven't.
Oh, I'm sure.
Agreed.
I'm sure.
So why not get on it?
Yeah. I think that's something that we don't talk about even as men.
Yeah.
We're told us to suck it up. We get called, crimes for girls, don't be a baby. But as men, like, that's not machismo,
Yeah.
But no, we have to be able to express ourselves, and there has to be some type of safe space or with your closest people.
That's right.
To be able to allow that to come out, and so you can say, look, this is what's going on, or this is what I'm going through. Like you said, not judgmental, and we got to pass it on to our kids, because that's how the change starts to evolve. Because if it's not, you can't just try to institute it with a 15, 16, 17-year-old, because their brain's already like, I'm not doing that at that point. But as a young kid, okay, you're crying. Why are you crying? Explain to me. Okay, that's your reason, but it's not a good enough reason to cry.
Yeah.
And let your feelings out. Okay, but enough is enough. You can move on from it now.
There's someone that's involved in this book, or not this book, someone that's involved in this program I'm talking about. This guy named Dr. Tim Thane. He's by trade or by education, and I'm sure at some point in his life earlier, he was a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I didn't meet him that way, but he believes the most effective, powerful form of communication isn't speaking. It's empathetic listening.
Say it again.
Empathetic listening.
Okay.
So it's an active way to listen. And it's wanting to know more. It's being curious about what someone's going through in a way where you communicate, wow, that's either happened to me, or I've known someone, or I can empathize with what you're going through.
Yeah.
As opposed to, what?
Right.
So, and more people than not are the former.
Yes.
They want
Yes.
to help.
Yes.
And so they want to listen. And so it's just, how do you do that? And if you've learned how to do that at a young age, this is hopefully you've earned your way onto someone else's home team.
Right.
And that's the idea. And so, my point is, why wait until we're 30, 40, 50?
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Erik, where can they get the book? Where can they get more information about everything you're talking about? Because against the subject, we go back and forth on this. We talk about it amongst ourselves, mental health and how to handle situations. Because I can be a pain in the ass. When that time, I know I irritate the hell out of him and he's trying to deal with that. That's why he asked the question.
But I mean, I got to be open. Like, I come from a military dad, right? So it's always blah, blah, blah. But now, even at times, he's going through it.
Right.
So it's like, you raised me to be this certain way, and now I gotta figure out how to deal with you during the times when you're going through it. My little brother, one of my best friends in the world, I have to try to figure out how to deal with him when he's going through it. So it's about asking questions, and I've had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, this way isn't working. Find out the best way to do it, and the best way to do it is to go to the source. I don't go to him because he gets on my nerves most of the time, period. But at the end of the day, it's about love, man. It's about lifting each other up.
You got it.
And the people in your village, man, especially when they're going through something this horrific and something this hard, it's about figuring out a way to try to pull each other out of it.
No doubt, no doubt. So not only as parents do we go through it, but like Dylan was 13 at the time when Griffin passed away.
Oh, wow.
So he was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And it wipes out your village.
Yes.
And so the way to bring you all back is no one does it by themselves, right? So you all kind of work in together, which again, that's a team.
Right in that line. Erik, One more time, let them know where you can get everything.
Amazon, as the world knows now, everything comes on Amazon.
Yeah, it's the way.
You can also get it on my website, which right now feeds you to Amazon, but it's erikkramer12.com. But there's going to be like this website of mine is going to go through a transformation here shortly. And so anyway, those are right now the two ways to get it.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming out, and those TQ does as well.
Yeah.
We're a part of a fraternity that I don't think any parent wants to be a part
Correct.
of. So anything you need, brother, don't hesitate to reach out.
I appreciate
Ladies and
that.
gentlemen, Erik Kramer joined us on the Franchise Podcast on Radio Row, where Super Bowl 58 is taking place in Las Vegas. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you real soon.
Live and direct from the new planet Earth, where pandemics are plenty, but the girls are still pretty in fashionable dresses. You know what I'm talking about. Where ignorance is bliss.